As you probably are already aware, Phase 4 is now on the PTR, and we've had tons and tons of information, not just from data mining, but actually from the devs themselves as well. In the next day or so, once everything calms down, so most of the information has been flushed out, I'm going to put all of it into one big video for you. But that's not the purpose of today's video. Today is really short and sweet. We're going to look at all of the new runes that are going to be available on your cloak in Phase 4. Starting with the Druid, we've got improved swipe, which while in cat form, your swipe ability becomes swipe cat, and while in bear form, your swipe ability strikes up to 3 additional enemies. Personally, I would have probably had the swipe bear portion make it uncapped to the amount of targets it can hit, but maybe that would be a little bit too overpowered in SOD, I don't know. Swipe cat, however, is really interesting because it swipes nearby enemies, inflicting 250% weapon damage, but it also generates 1 combo point on your current target. Now, if you play Cata, or even if you was playing Wrath of the Lich King, you know you had swipe cat. But the really good thing about Season of Discovery is being able to get that combo point, so actually being able to AoE and not worry about having to use a mangle or a rake or something like that to be able to get Savage Roar back up. Tree of Life is for Resto, where you shapeshift into the Tree of Life, and while in this form you increase healing received by 10% for all party and raid members within 45 yards, while growth healing is increased by 60%, your heal over time spells cost 20% less, and you gain 25% increased spirit. You also get 200% increased armor, and you cannot cast harmful spells. Out of context, this looks really, really strong, especially when you look at that wild growth portion and you're like, wow, that is absolutely crazy. Actually, wild growth has been nerfed, as in its base spell has been nerfed, so it won't be as strong for like a Boomy or a Feral. In fact, you'll need to be restoing in Tree of Life, really, for wild growth to even be worth casting anymore. And then, I think we saw it coming, you get Starfall as well, which is basically the Starfall that you would expect, but this does actually hit targets that are in combat. Shout out to Go, I was watching him stream and testing some stuff on the PTR last night, so be careful with Starfall. The one thing that's quite boring, and I think you're going to see as we go along, is the fact that there is very little choice. As a Boomy, you're going to use Starfall. As a healer, you're going to use Tree of Life. And as any Feral spec, you're going to be using Improved Swipe. Onto the Hunters, you're going to get Improved Volley, which reduces the mana cost of your Volley by 50%. It also reduces its cooldown by 100%, so it can be spammed, and it no longer suffers pushback from damaging attacks. Volley also deals 3% of your ranged attack power as additional damage each time it deals damage. Nice, just really, really sick AoE. That's good. You're also going to get Resourcefulness, which reduces the mana cost of your traps by 100% and their cooldowns by 40%. And finally, Hit and Run, where you gain 15% movement speed for 4 seconds after using Raptor Strike. I gotta be honest with you, all round I think the Hunter runes are quite boring. Maybe that's just me because I'm not really that interested in a Hunter in Season of Discovery anyway, but I think they could have been a bit more exciting than that. The Mage runes, however, slightly different. You've got Arcane Barrage, which launches several missiles at the enemy target, causing 25 to 31 arcane damage. This spell also has a 20% chance to trigger Missile Barrage. Really, really nice. Not just for if you use Arcane DPS for some reason, but obviously this is geared towards your healers. You've also got Overheat, which Fire Blast will always deal a critical strike. It can be cast while casting another spell and is not affected by the global cooldown. Now, this is obviously absolutely amazing for forcing instant Pyroblasts. So this is all playing a part into Hot Streak and, yeah, really, really, really strong Fire Glyph. And then finally Frozen Orb, which launches an orb of swirling ice, which rapidly moves forward over 16 seconds. While it's moving every second, the orb deals X amount of frost damage and applies a chill for 30% movement speed reduction to all enemies it passes through. The first time it damages an enemy, its movement will slow and it will have a 100% chance to trigger Fingers of Frost. Unless Frost becomes absolutely amazing in PvE at some point, which, who knows. For the Paladin runes, we've got Shield of Righteousness, which just slams the target with your shield, causing holy damage based on your block value with a 6-second cooldown. There's also Vindicator, where when your Vindication talent is triggered, it also decreases the target's attack power by 70 per talent point and increases your strength, agility, and attack power by 5% per point. The Vindication durations increase to 30 seconds as well. And then finally Righteous Vengeance, where when your Judgment, Crusader Strike, or Divine Storm deal a critical strike, your target takes 30% additional damage over until cancelled. Now, even though we're only 4 classes in, I'm starting to see a pattern, and that's actually the majority of these abilities just seem to be the Cataclysm classes in Season of Discovery. You're going to hate me for saying that, especially if you don't like Cataclysm, sorry. Except for Vindicator. I'd take that in Cata, to be fair. The other thing that you need to bear in mind, especially as Paladins, is lots of things change, where Seal and Martyrdom's actually going to become a base ability now. Consecrate's going to be healing, and there's other base changes to the class where, you know, you need to look at these runes as just something completely standalone. For the priest, you're going to get Binding Heal, which is a fast heal that heals a friendly target and the priest and deals a low amount of threat. Soul Warding, where your Power Word Shield no longer has a cooldown, costs 15% less mana, grants 15% additional base value, and gains an additional 50% of your healing power. Man, I really hope this priest, or priest in general, does not just turn into the Wrath of the Lich King spam bubble on everyone priest, because, I don't know, maybe you enjoyed that, but for me, that would be pretty boring. And then I think one everybody saw coming is Vampiric Touch, which causes X amount of shadow damage over 15 seconds and causes all party and raid members to gain mana equal to 2% of any shadow spell damage you deal to the target. So nice mana return and another dot. Again, we probably saw Vampiric Touch coming at some point and you're going to get it at 60. Well, phase 4. For rogues, you got Blunderbuss, which fires a musket blast up to 4 enemies in a cone in front of you for X amount of damage. Crimson Tempest, which is a really nice AoE finishing move now that slashes all enemies within 8 yards, causing victims to bleed over time. It lasts longer and deals more damage per combo point. Crimson Tempest benefits from all talents and effects that trigger from or modify Rupture as well. But actually having an AoE finisher is obviously pretty insane. It's nice that it's not target capped as well. And then finally, Fan of Knives, which I see a lot of people wanting and a lot of people not wanting, strangely. And as someone who's actually going to be playing a rogue in, well, phase 4, I want it. But it instantly throws both weapons at all targets within 8 yards, causing 105% weapon damage with daggers or 70% weapon damage with all other weapons. Again, it looks like all they're trying to fix for rogues in phase 4 is giving them more AoE. Shamans are going to get Storm, Earth and Fire, which reduces the cooldown of your Chain Lightning by 100%. Did someone say Cataclysm Chain Lightning? No, just me. It causes your Earthbind totem to root targets for 5 seconds when cast and increases the periodic damage done by your Flame Shock by 60%. Just an amazing rune which you're never going to run without. Feral Spirit summons 2 Spirit Wolves under the command of the Shaman, lasting 45 seconds. And finally, Coherence, which causes your Chain Heal effectiveness to only reduce by 35% per jump, Chain Lightning effectiveness to only reduce by 20% per jump, and also jumps to 1 additional target. I can't see you ever wanting to use that if you was going to be AoEing with Chain Lightning or cleaving with Chain Lightning over Storm, Earth and Fire, so it's definitely more of just a chain heal rune, in my opinion, at the moment at least. Warlocks are going to get Decimation, where your Soulfire spell no longer has a cooldown. Additionally, when you Shadow Bolt, Shadow Cleave, Incinerate, or Soulfire a target that is at or below 35% health, the cast time of your Soulfire spell is reduced by 40% for 10 seconds. Soulfire's cast under the effect of Decimation costs no shard. This is definitely something that you Warlocks that play Wrath or Kato or whatever you play will definitely know of this rune and recognise it from a talent. Mark of Chaos is an interesting one, so after striking a target with Shadow Burn, your next single target non-periodic spell gains 100% increased critical strike chance. Now this sounds like an absolute combo wombo big dick pumping single target nuke on someone in PvP, as well as obviously having usefulness in PvE as well, but I really wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of a Chaos Bolt directly after a Shadow Burn. And then finally, Infernal Armor, where your spirit becomes infused with demonic energy, reducing all magic damage you take by a percentage equal to your physical damage reduction from armor. Really interesting tanking rune, and I'm wondering if that's actually going to make him quite overpowered, actually, being able to get all of that magic damage reduction as well as the physical damage reduction you ordinarily have. And let's be fair, Warlocks are pretty strong tanks anyway, so be interesting to see how that plays out. And then finally, Warriors. Now, Warriors have had tons of changes that I will try and cover all of the class changes over the next week or so, but there's things like Flagellation Rune that's been, looks like, redesigned completely. Single-Minded Fury no longer increasing damage dealt. Damage bonuses being lost from other runes as well. Recklessness only increasing critical strike chance by 50% where it was 100%, but in all fairness, they did reduce the cooldown of that so you can use it more often. But overall, it looks like they're trying to bring Warriors down a little bit, and the runes are not particularly interesting. But you do get Meat Hook, which, I mean, that is pretty cool. To be fair, Meat Hook is basically a death grip. But we'll talk about that more in the actual class videos. Let's just focus on the runes. So they're going to get Fresh Meat, where damaging a target with Bloodthirst has a 100% chance the first time and 10% chance each subsequent time to enrage you, activating abilities which requiring being enraged. It also causes you to deal 10% increased physical damage for 12 seconds. Sudden Death gives your melee hits a 10% chance to grant Sudden Death, where Sudden Death allows you to use Execute regardless of the target's health state. When Execute is enabled by Sudden Death, you'll retain 10 rage after using Execute. And then finally, Shockwave, which sends a wave of force in front of the warrior, causing 448 damage and stunning all enemy targets within 10 yards in a frontal cone for 4 seconds. And Shockwave is a fairly well-known tanking rune, obviously, if you're going to be sword and board, which probably not. And overall, they're the runes. I'll be honest with you, I do stand by what I said at the start in the fact that none of them are mind-blowing. Like, some of them are really good, don't get me wrong. There's runes here that I'm personally excited to play about with. I'm currently, as in at this moment in time, leveling a Druid because I never actually got my Druid from 40 to 50 before. So I am kind of looking forward to playing with a lot of these, even though they are just rehashed abilities. You know, I wanted to see some real new spicy ones that we've sort of never experienced before. But I suppose Blizzard really do just need to sort of get a bit of a move on, because they've already said a few weeks after Phase 4 comes BWL, and who knows what changes are coming with that. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. As I say, I'm primarily covering Cataclysm content now, but because Phase 1's been out for, you know, a few weeks, like everyone's enjoying it, we'll do a bit of Season of Discovery content and we'll just be mixing it up. So, again, if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.